I know what you're thinking. Another Rolex review, groundbreaking. But bear with me because this is the Rolex Datejust 41 with the blue dial, smooth bezel and the Oyster bracelet, also known as the plain chicken breast of the Rolex world. It's got all the hallmarks of a great watch, but after wearing it for a few days, I have to say, this might just be the most boring Rolex ever made. Corporate PowerPoint template boring. Now, before I do get into it, if you're new around here, I'm Jag from Jag's Watches. This watch channel does not take itself too seriously. If you enjoy everything and anything to do with watches, make sure you like, subscribe and hit that bell icon. And thank you to all of the returning viewers. I appreciate all of you. Let's run through the specs to begin with of this watch. It has a 41mm case, an Oyster steel, smooth polished bezel, aka the anti-fluted, blue sunburst dial. It's a pretty dial, really like the dial on this, but as common as a white Tesla in West London. The Oyster bracelet, durable and fashion neutral. And the movement, the caliber 3235, a silent overachiever, cost certified, 70 hours power reserve, doesn't call attention to itself. It is a solid movement. And what else should we expect from Rolex? So, on paper, this is a solid watch, but in practice, it's about as exciting as dry toast. But why does this watch, in my opinion, feel a little lifeless? Have you ever met somebody who's conventionally attractive, great job, well-spoken, and still somehow completely unmemorable? That's this watch. The dial, its polished perfection, somehow feels a little sterile. The bezel lacks the sparkle. What I want you to picture is a lion without its mane. That's what a Datejust is without its fluted bezel. Let me know in the comments if you agree. The Oyster bracelet, I cannot deny, it's very comfortable. But the Jubilee throws a bit of a party. And when we think about a Datejust, it's a dress watch. With the fluted bezel, with the Jubilee bracelet, it's more of a dressier watch. However, with the Oyster bracelet, without the fluted bezel, it becomes more of a daily watch. And me saying I don't like this watch is like me saying I don't like a Mercedes. You know it's a great car, you know it looks pretty good, you know it's built really well, but it's just not my taste. And that's really the bottom line here. This is the go-to Rolex for people who say I just wanted something nice. It's probably the easiest model to get hold of in the AD, and that's why you probably see so many people with Datejust with all different configurations. I was offered two a couple of months ago, one with the Roman blue dial and one with the white dial with Roman numerals, and I said no to both. It's like Rolex only made a watch only using Microsoft Excel. No emotion, no flair, and just output. You can tell I'm still in work mode. But here's where it shines. Enough of the roasting of this watch. I don't want this to be a roast fest because, as I've mentioned, this is a great watch on paper and a great daily watch. And I've told my brother-in-law not to watch this video because this is his watch. And I told him I was going to rip this watch apart. However, this is where this watch shines. Because while this thing is a human equivalent of beige trousers, it's also kind of brilliant. It's got incredible wearability, 41mm, it wears slimmer thanks to the great case shape. The sunburst blue dial is beautiful. In the right light, it's chef's kiss. The screw down crown, the solid clasp, water resistance, and the bulletproof movement. The great thing about this watch in the build, as I mentioned, without the flute, without the Jubilee, is that it works in a suit, it works at a barbecue, on a yacht. I've never been on a yacht. It's Rolex doing what Rolex does best. A watch so practical, it almost hurts. So who is this watch for with this configuration? Probably your dentist or someone who just got their bonus and Googled the best Rolex for men. It's the one and done Rolex. Safe pick. The Toyota Corolla of luxury watches. You won't impress a watch nerd with this watch, but you also won't offend one either. And honestly, in the world full of shouty watches, maybe being boring is brave. Now, the reason why I would never pick this as a daily watch, because ultimately I think in this configuration, this is a go anywhere and do anything watch to a certain extent. Why I wouldn't pick this? Now, the retail for this watch is around £9,000. And if you're looking for a daily watch you have a better option, in my opinion, a watch that is one of my favorite Rolexes, which is a Rolex Explorer for a cheaper price at around £6,700. That is why I think this watch for me would never be the choice for a go anywhere and do anything watch, because in this configuration with the smooth bezel, as I mentioned, the line without its mane, and the Oyster bracelet, it becomes a daily watch. It becomes a professional watch you can wear at work. And that's great because it's still a solid watch. It still will hold up very well and fulfill its purpose. But you can spend less money and get a better watch in the Rolex Explorer with more history, more heritage, and for me, a better aesthetic for daily wear, a better aesthetic in every sense of the word, because there's something about the Datejust, and I think it's to do with that Cyclops lens. It just isn't for me. And I think that's why I prefer the Oyster Perpetual range, the simplicity at its best, because other than the date window there with the Cyclops lens, the dial on this watch is beautiful. The indices are applied. You've got the beautiful crown there at 12 o'clock. I love the hands. I love the seconds hand on this particular model. And as I mentioned, the sunburst blue dial is beautiful. It wears perfectly. It's such a comfortable watch to wear. But that date just makes it a little bit difficult to look at, for me personally. And that's why for me the Oyster Perpetual range is such a great option. Again, less money. I think that's around £5,700, I think. So you have two options straight away that are cheaper, same movement, same build quality, and in my opinion, better aesthetic for daily use. I think the Datejust is supposed to be a dress-up watch. I think without the fluted bezel and that Jubilee bracelet, it becomes a very generic watch, which then goes and falls into the category of the Oyster Perpetual and, as I mentioned, the Rolex Explorer, but it's a little bit more expensive. So that's where I find that this particular configuration falls short. That's why for me, this is the most boring Rolex out there. I'd prefer an Explorer. I'd prefer an Oyster Perpetual. So, final thoughts. Do you think that this is the most boring Rolex? Me personally, 100% yes. It's my least favorite model. Even with the fluted bezel, the Datejust has always been probably my least favorite, and I think it's because I see it everywhere. Seeing it everywhere makes me not want it as much, I guess. But as I mentioned, this is still one of the most practical configurations, balanced configurations, and the most useful Rolex models out there, because you can actually get hold of it. And I think that isn't talked about enough when I talk about Rolex. I've mentioned the OP range. Good luck getting one at retail. They're so difficult to get hold of. And the Explorer is a little bit easier. So I do think the Explorer is that middle ground. You're getting a better watch as well. So this watch is a little bit like Toast. I've mentioned Toast before. No one's excited by it, but somehow you always come back to it. I told you I'd come back to that comparison. Would I buy it? No. Would I recommend it to someone who just wants a really good watch? Maybe. But equally, there are better options there, even in the Rolex catalogue, in my opinion, in the Oyster Perpetual and the Rolex Explorer. Let me know in the comments if you agree or not. Is the Datejust boring, or is it just misunderstood? If you've enjoyed the video, if you've been entertained, please do like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. I've appreciated every single one of you who've supported the channel so far. And if you watched the video to the end, again, a huge thank you. I've been Jag from Jags Watches, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.